Ashley, welcome to the Your Sorority Journey podcast. I am just elated to have you on and get to know you better and actually share your really unique and impactful sorority journey with our community.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So, Ashley, you were chapter president of the sorority of another one of our team members. So that's how we got connected. I am also on the edge of my seat to hear more about your sorority journey. Will you tell us a little bit about what drew you to sorority and the decisions that you made along the way that have arrived you where are at now, both as an alumna and professionally?
Yeah, of course. So I grew up, my mom was in a sorority when she was in college. She was an AOPI. So I always kind of knew that that was something that I wanted to go into when I went to college myself. She always spoke so highly of it. And I knew that that was the kind of connection that I really wanted to have as I went through my college years and then on, into my future life as an alumna. So I remember the day I got accepted into USC and then I decided that I was going to go. I went on the Panhellenic website and tried to register for recruitment, learned that they do spring recruitment there. So I wasn't going to be able to register then.
You
But
were
I
ready
was
though.
really excited. I was ready. Yes. I always knew that that was something that I wanted to go ahead and do. Funnily enough, my dad, he went to a military academy, so he didn't have that same Greek life experience.
Mm.
And when I told him I wanted to go through recruitment, he said, "But you don't need to do that. The army is just like a sorority. You'll be in that already." And
Oh
I
my
said,
gosh, how
it's
funny.
quite the same thing. So then I wanted to register for recruitment, but because of schedule conflicts with my other student organizations that I was a part of, I couldn't go through formal recruitment because I had a very time intensive schedule at the time. So I went through informal recruitment and COB and joined, as soon as I could once I found, my home where I felt like I belonged, and then got the opportunity to serve as vice president of recruitment and then chapter president, which are both opportunities that I'm really, really grateful for, and I think have set me up really well for, my future.
That's amazing. Well, I'm assuming that some of that other outside involvement or campus involvement was with ROTC. That was the really time intensive schedule.
That was part of it. And then I was also on the mock trial team, which doesn't sound like it would be time intensive, but it's like a pre-law prep program where you do trial advocacy and you compete against other schools.
Wow.
And January, when recruitment was happening, was the start of our competitive season. So
Yeah.
we had time intensive practices, upwards of 20 to 30 hours a week prepping. So that ended up being the big time consumer there, that led me to go through informal recruitment.
What didn't you do in college? That's what I want to know.
I
I
certainly, yeah, tried a lot of things.
Well, I love that. And you are our second episode on our So You Think You Want to Be in a Sorority series, specifically for women who are either on the fence about registering for recruitment or who have made the decision to register and are actually just trying to understand the more breadth of what being in a sorority looks like. And I think a common misconception of the sorority experience is that it is exclusive to other on-campus involvement. And so it's very cool to hear you talk about how not only were you in something as intense and demanding as ROTC, while not only being in a sorority, but being a integral leader in your organization. Also, as a COB member who didn't go through primary recruitment and got to be the vice president of recruitment, there's so many layers that we could unpack there. But I think the
Yes.
most valuable one for us to look into today is how you balanced and how you saw value in the sorority experience in addition to these other opportunities to be involved and connected on campus. What really stood out to you? Obviously, you had this preconceived notion of sisterhood from your mom's experience, even though your dad was like, you could get that in the army.
Yes.
Tell me, even with all the hurdles to actually being in an organization such as recruitment not falling in what you perceive the traditional time frame to be in the fall and being unable to go through the primary process, what was so valuable as you perceived from sorority and then as you actually experienced it for you to continue investing in the sorority experience in addition to all these other clubs and organizations?
So for me, I very much see it as interest-based versus values-based. So Other on-campus organizations are very, very interest-based. So ROTC, military interest-based, the mock trial program, law interest-based. And that's what you're going to see with a lot of different on-campus organizations is that they are pre-professional fraternities or, organizations like that focused on specific majors or specific career paths. They're, based in interests like we had a Star Wars club at my university, so very, very interest-based there, that kind of thing.
Molly
But a
always talks about
sorority,
the chess club. Yeah.
yes, yes. Different very interest-based organizations that you can
Yeah.
go and join and, provide a really fun college experience if you are within that interest. A sorority, I think, is unique in that it is values based. So regardless of whether or not you have the same major as, the girl sitting next to you in recruitment, you could end up in the same chapter and share very special moments and very special memories because it comes down to what you value, not what you're interested in.
Mm. Well, what's interesting about that too is I feel like that breaks down another stereotype of everyone in this sorority is a soccer player or an athlete, right? Or every woman in this organization is a STEM major, right? Like as you go through even like your first weeks on campus, or in your case, a whole semester on campus, I think we're naturally drawn to look for common traits in different sororities, not maybe for the intention of pitting them against one another, but for us to just kind of unpack the nuances of these different organizations, when in all reality, like what you're saying is this is more based on values than the actual interests or specific aspirations of the members.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that I loved most about my sorority experience in my chapter was that I got exposed to so many different interests that I would have, never heard of or never had the opportunity to if I wasn't a member of that chapter. In my first semester at USC, I exclusively knew people who were pre-law, who were international relations, because that was my major at the time, and people who were in ROTC. That was my entire circle. Going into my sorority, I now have sisters who build race cars as a hobby. I have sisters who study, neurobiology. My
Mm.
roommate is moving to New York to do investment banking. So it's all these different things that I would have never seen or gotten to experience that were now becoming, a daily part of my life that I would get to sit around the dinner table and hear about all these exciting different things.
Ah, that is so cool. Race cars and investment
Yeah.
banking. I think it's so interesting how that perception like is so predominant in the sorority experience when there are so many stories like this of members of the same chapter who have so many different interests, majors, pursuits in life, like being able to bond this common bond of sisterhood. One thing that I think is really interesting too, even on you reflecting about what your first semester was like and these like different like communities that you cultivated, I think we're really drawn to community, right? Like we
Yes.
want to be around people who are like-minded. I think it's a good thing to have friends in the degrees that you study, in the interest clubs that you have, because there's like a kinship in, oh, we are all doing the same thing and can relate to the certain way as maybe a sister who is studying neurobiology. You might not be able to relate on your homework assignment that week or how tough this exam is going to be, but you do relate on other things. And I feel like what's cool is being able to build another community that's based on values would actually change the way that you go back into those clubs and organizations based on interests. Was that your experience? Like, did your sorority experience change the way you showed up in your other clubs and organizations?
I think absolutely it did. I know one of the things that was really important for me was after I went through recruitment, I was like, wow, this sisterhood is amazing. I want to share this with other people who are in, other parts of my community. Around the campus and invite them into this wonderful experience that I'm having. And that's actually how I got one of my littles was she had been on the mock trial team with me, and I absolutely adored her. And I said, she fits in this chapter. I know she fits in this
Um,
chapter. And so I talked her into going through recruitment. And then I was so excited when she got to run home to us on bid day. And then I got to pick her up as my little. And now she's, one of my lifelong best friends because I saw how how well she fit in both in our interest-based community and how well she would fit in our value-based community.
It's so funny because that is for sure the most effective recruitment strategy. Especially for women who really see themselves aligning with really specific career-based involvement or professional development or even interest-based involvement on campus. So like, oh no, I know how to find my people, and it's only through these avenues. I think it takes bold sorority women like you who are able to like build the bridge between the two to call out the strengths or value that other women could bring to the organization. And it probably is true vice versa, right? Like as you meet other women in your own sorority or organization, that how the women in that chapter with the same interests or aspirations can actually bring stronger bonds into those other places on campus too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that is one of the best recruitment tools that chapters can use is to go out and find those people in your other communities that you know would make, phenomenal parts of your chapter and your sorority experience and talk them into it. Honestly, like my little she was I don't want to say anti-Greek life before she went through recruitment, but she had never had that experience. It wasn't
Yeah.
something that she ever saw herself going through. And the way she describes it to me is that I just talked to her so relentlessly about it and so positively that she was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And then she ended up finding, this wonderful community that she could be a part of.
Well, it makes sense, right? Like if someone is going to college with a preconceived notion about what fraternities and sororities are all about, so they're like veering away from them, they're going to be much more prone to hearing about that experience from someone who they view as like them, right? Like shared interests, same aspiration versus some sorority member who is in a very different career path at a table in the pavilion, right? Like
Mhm.
it's just it's a totally different like marketing strategy for sorority for sorority the experience and also like just getting people to give it a shot by going through recruitment. And I also think like your story is really cool too because I think it's okay if and this wasn't your experience necessarily, but I think it's okay if you're intimidated by the formal
Oh
primary
yeah.
process. There is still an opportunity for you to join. Do you have anything to say to any women who are like, I think the process of joining is more intimidating for me than the idea of actually being in an organization?
If that is an experience that you're having, I so strongly recommend that you look into informal recruitment at your university. Like I was VP recruitment. I love formal recruitment. I totally understand how that is an intimidating and
Yeah.
exhausting process. It's a lot. You're talking to, hundreds of people. You're spending all day in heels and a pretty dress and your hair's all done. It's a lot to deal with. Look into informal recruitment. My experience was so calm and I found such strong connections going through informal recruitment because it was so peaceful. I got to, sit down one-on-one with maybe one or two people and really get to hear, about their experiences. I got to speak to them for longer because there wasn't time constraints like there is in formal recruitment. I got to
Yeah.
meet with them both in the chapter house and out on campus. So it was very comfortable. And I think it is a much calmer and, still exciting way of going through that opportunity, but you get to make such, I think, deeper connections.
Yeah. That's so good. I also am a big fan of the primary recruitment process just for the form of like the volume of women who we can extend membership to at once, right? Like we open the floodgates, right? And we say like you
Yeah.
get a bid and you get a bid and like there's an opportunity for you here. We want you to be a part of it. But I think it totally makes sense why informal recruitment exists and it is not for the chapters who need more members, right? Like this is for any chapter on campus to have the opportunity to grow and extend bids to the right women at the right times.
Mhm.
And that could be you. I love that you were the vice president of recruitment. I mentioned this earlier, having not gone through the primary recruitment process as a potential new member. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your leadership experience, both as vice president of recruitment and chapter president, while fulfilling your commitments and obligations to these really demanding other parts of your college experience.
Yeah. So for all of the semesters that I was on exec, I took 20 units. So I was, above the normal course load, plus being in my other members of my other extracurricular activities and having leadership positions in those. But what I found is that it is such a more valuable experience, at least for me, to be able to lead women in my chapter because of those shared values, first of all. And second of all, because you're in such close quarters, especially for us, a lot of us lived in the chapter house. It's a very different leadership experience than an on-campus organization. You are seeing these women every single day. It's
Yeah.
not, once a week meetings and then you don't see each other. It's every single day you're living together, you're walking down the hallway to the bathroom in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I think it really cultivates a very special and unique experience that provides challenges and opportunities in leadership that you wouldn't get anywhere
Mm.
else. And I think that's something that I'm really, really grateful for.
I was chapter president as well. And I remember hearing, like, halfway into my first semester, an advisor at the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life told me, Cassie, you will never have a harder job in your entire life than being chapter president of your sorority. Of 200 of your peers, your friends, your roommates, your
Mhm.
classmates, your friends that you go out with on Friday nights, your friends that you like decompress about like personal lives, family stressors, and like accountability that is required in the organization. Like you are managing all of these interpersonal pieces that I think you're spot on. You don't get that in another club and organization. You also will probably never encounter that as a CEO
Yeah.
or the chair of like the PTO, right? Like
Mhm.
this is such a unique experience that I feel like is like a crash course for like interpersonal relationships for the rest of your life. And I recently talked to someone who interviewed for our internship who had the perception when she joined her sorority because she was an engineering major that she couldn't be a leader in her chapter. And she actually, other people told her that too. Like, oh, you shouldn't run for a leadership position. Like, your degree is too demanding. Like, you wouldn't be able to manage both. And it's cool to hear her demystify that myth. But I'm also would love to hear what you would have to say for anyone who's like, I know that my degree is going to be really hard, or these other commitments to get me to where I need to go are going to be really challenging. I can't even consider sorority leadership. What advice would you have for them as they embark on their sorority journey? What their perception of their leadership opportunities could be?
I think if you are in, a very high-powered degree like engineering, or if you're like me and have a lot of, on-campus extracurriculars and, requirements that you have to be a part of, you should still absolutely consider, serving in a leadership position in whatever way you can. So think about first what's going to be best for you, because if you have, worn yourself thin, you're not going to be the best you for yourself and your degree or for the organization, and that's just not helpful to anybody. And then think about where can you most effectively serve your peers. So think
Mm,
about where your skill sets lie and what's going to help the organization is the way that I like to think of it. So my skill sets very much lend itself to vice president recruitment and chapter president. That's some place that I feel very comfortable working and serving in. So it made
yeah.
sense for me. And then think about, okay, how can I most effectively manage my time? I thought that was the biggest learning curve that I had was how can I manage my time so that I can be at ROTC at 5:30 in the morning, be back by 7, go to my classes, and then have chapter meeting that night, meetings with our advisors. And it really just comes down to a strict schedule that you keep for yourself and you stick to.
Yeah.
And schedule yourself time to do your homework. That's okay. You don't have to answer sorority texts while you're doing your homework. Do your homework. You're not good to anyone if you don't meet the GPA requirements for the chapter for your leadership position. So focus
Yeah.
on taking care of yourself and then taking care of the organization.
Oh, well, and I think there's so many layers to taking care of yourself, right? Some of it is just like the vast to-do list that lives in your brain at all times. And when you knock that out, you just feel like a more present sister. There's also
Mhm.
some of the like personal care pieces of like, did you take your time to get ready this morning? Did you get to journal or call your mom or exercise or cook a meal that you've been like really wanting to? Like some of the very like fundamental pieces of like caring for like your holistic self that contribute. And I think it's important that we preface like no one is like demanding that by joining a sorority you have to be a leader, or you do have to be a leader. No one is demanding that you be an officer or in a
Mhm.
titled leadership position. But we do want you to be a leader. We do want you to take ownership of your experience and feel like an active contributor to this membership experience, which isn't necessarily true in all clubs and organizations. But if your
Mhm.
aspiration is like, I actually really want to be student body president, or I really want to be the president of the chess club, like I really want to do that, but I think sorority could really enhance that experience. By all means, like go be the best chess player on campus. Like
Yeah.
go be go all in on the volleyball team. Like whatever it is that you have found is the place that you want to like steward that skill set, go for it. But don't discount the fact that it could be sorority. Like it could be this organization where you are growing not just in your skill set, which I love how you said like identify positions that lend well to your natural giftings
Mhm.
or things that you want to grow in. Like it's okay to apply for officer positions that you selfishly want to put in a resume to make that look more advantageous to a future employer. If it's marketing, if it's being vice president of finance, if it is being an event planner like recruitment or some of our social chair positions, be selfish about that and know that that could be a place for you as much as other places on campus, but they're not mutually exclusive. If anything, I love how your story really lends to the fact that like your experience in your sorority only made your experience elsewhere on campus better and vice versa. Like you don't
Yeah,
have to pick, you get to
you
do
don't.
it all.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that we forget about a lot is that not everyone has to hold an officer position in the
Right.
chapter. The chapter needs people who are just going to be there and be happy and go to events. The chapter won't function if it's just 17 people on an executive board.
Correct.
That's not what chapters are for, you know? And then like you said, like I would never have run for VP finance because I know that's not where my strong suit lie. As much as it would have been fun to, be social chair, I know that's not where I would have been the most helpful to the chapter and the most helpful to myself. And by, making those very careful decisions, I got experiences that I was able to talk about in my Army job interviews. And, those
Mm.
experiences helped me get my dream job in the Army. So, thinking about what's going to help you and help the chapter, I think is really, really key there.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Like whatever you do, do it to like the best image of your organization,
Mhm.
right? If you are going to be a leader of the mock trial team, or if you were going to be vice president of finance, do whatever you do for to put the organization in the best light, right? Like you are a leader in your off-campus internship, you are a leader of your organization in your rec volleyball team. Like you are always wearing your letters, you are always
Mhm.
embodying the values of your organization because, as you mentioned, this is a values-based organization. We are not just playing chess, we are not just on the debate team. Like we are living out a lifestyle that we want to attract other women to be like inspired by and we want to grow into ourselves. So that goes with you wherever you go, whether you are the vice
Absolutely, yeah.
president of finance for your own chapter or the student body president. And so I'm really, really excited for potential new members, hopefully potential new members, hopefully if you're on the fence about recruitment, this just pushed you over the edge to say like, man, I can do the multitude of things that I am passionate about. I guess as we wrap up, is there anything that you want to say to the opposite side of the spectrum of a potential new member who feels like by joining her sorority, like she has to be all in to get the most out of her experience and might be closed-minded to other places that she could be involved on campus?
I think that really having that well-rounded college experience, so get involved on campus, get involved in the chapter, do what's going to make your experience the best for you. You only have 4 years on campus, or, longer. If you want to take a little longer, that's okay. Less if you graduate early, but make the most of your time there because those are going to be some of the most exciting years of your life. Go out and try go out and try the chess club, go try the Star Wars club, try whatever interests you. And don't forget that it can add to your values-based experience in your chapter it doesn't have to take away.
I love that. Ashley, thank you so much for joining me today. I have loved hearing your story and can't wait for our future sisters, this next generation of sorority women, to be excited about being involved both in and out of their sorority on their future campus.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope everyone enjoys. Yeah.